These are the child stars of classic Hollywood, who were once the most famous faces in America and then completely vanished. Some walked away, some were pushed out, and some met ends so tragic that their stories actually changed the law. A pattern runs through all of it, stretching back over 100 years, and it begins with the very first child superstar. Jackie Coogan was 4 years old when Charlie Chaplin spotted him at the Orpheum Theater in Los Angeles in 1919, performing on stage with his vaudeville father. Chaplin later wrote about the moment in his autobiography, saying he saw an eccentric dancer, nothing extraordinary, but at the finish of his act, he brought on his little boy, an infant of 4, and that it could have been obnoxious in another child, but Jackie Coogan was charming. That meeting led to an immediate casting, and by 1921, Coogan starred in The Kid and became the first true child superstar in film history. Not just famous, globally adored. His own words capture the scale of it perfectly, quote, "Other boys went to see Babe Ruth, but Babe Ruth came to see me." Jackie Coogan Productions launched when he was 7. A 4-film, $1 million contract followed, and the advance check alone, $500,000, stood as the largest movie salary check ever written at that time. Forensic accounting later determined that between 1923 and 1936, his total earnings exceeded $3 million, which adjusts to somewhere around 70 to 90 million in today's money. And then on May 4th, 1935, a car crash near Pine Valley, California killed his father, his best friend and co-star Junior Durkin, and 2 others. Jackie survived with broken ribs, and he always maintained that if his father had lived, the betrayal that followed never would have happened. His mother and her new husband Arthur Bernstein, who had been the family's financial advisor, had spent nearly all of it. When Jackie filed suit in April 1938 for $4 million, his mother took the stand and told the court, quote, "No promises were ever made to give Jackie anything." She called him a bad boy. When pressed on whether all his earnings belonged to her, she answered simply, "I believe that is the law." And that's the thing, she was technically right. Under California law at the time, a minor's income legally belonged to the parents. February 1940 brought the settlement. After legal fees, Jackie walked away with roughly $35,000, and he had to cash in his own life insurance policy just to survive. Chaplin, hearing his former child star had nothing left, reportedly handed him $1,000 in cash without hesitation. The scandal was so enormous that California passed the Child Actors Bill in 1939, known as the Coogan Law. But, as we'll see, that law carried massive loopholes for decades, and the pattern Jackie established, child earns millions, adults take everything, child vanishes into obscurity, would repeat itself over and over again. Coogan did work again, most memorably as Uncle Fester on The Addams Family in the 1960s. His daughter Leslie later revealed that he came home crying the day he accepted the role, telling her, "I used to be the most beautiful child in the world, and now I'm a hideous monster." Cardiac arrest took him in 1984, at 69. Before Jackie Coogan, there was baby Peggy, whose real name was Peggy Jean Montgomery. Discovered at 19 months old, she became a silent film sensation by the age of 3, and her 1923 Universal contract paid $1.5 million a year. Over 1.2 million fan letters arrived for her in a single year. The press called her the $1 million baby. Every cent of it went to her parents, spent on cars, houses, and clothes, with nothing set aside for her education. By the late 1930s, the family survived on Motion Picture Relief Fund food coupons, and columnist Walter Winchell reported in 1940 that Peggy and her husband were living in a New York City furnished room with, quote, "only donuts to eat." The conditions she endured as a working toddler were brutal. Studio crews held her underwater until she fainted for one film, had her escape alone from a burning room for another, and put her under a moving train for a third. All of this at 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, before she turned 2. Baby Peggy survived all of it. She reinvented herself as Diana Sarah Carey, authored Hollywood's Children, one of the definitive accounts of the child star experience, and lived to 101, dying in February 2020 as the last surviving star of the silent era. In one of her final interviews, she reflected, "I knew from the age of 4 that I was a separate person. I never bought the person on the screen." Shirley Temple's story carries a different shape, but the same financial betrayal. #1 box office draw in all of Hollywood from 1934 to 1938, she earned over $300,000 in 1938 alone, making her the 7th highest earner in America that year. Her films are widely credited with saving Fox Film Corporation from bankruptcy. What waited for her in adulthood was a near-empty trust. The $3.2 million that should have been there had been reduced to just $44,000. Her father had failed to deposit the earnings into the court-ordered trust, and she'd been given $20 a week in pocket money as a child. Her autobiography captures her reaction in a single line: "I felt neither disappointment nor anger." Temple stands as the rare success story in this world. After retiring from film at 22, she built a distinguished diplomatic career, serving as U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, the first woman to hold the position of Chief of Protocol of the United States, and later U.S. Ambassador to Czechoslovakia during the Velvet Revolution. Death came in 2014 at 85. But the Hollywood fortune was long gone. Freddie Bartholomew faced an even more grinding version of the same exploitation. Born in London, he became the second highest paid child actor after Temple in the late 1930s, earning $2,500 a week at MGM, and that's when his birth parents, who hadn't even raised him, sued for custody and a share of his earnings in 1936. The litigation ground on for over 6 years and consumed virtually everything. His own summary of the ordeal was just 4 words: "I was drained dry." After leaving Hollywood, he joined the Air Force, pivoted into advertising, and eventually rose to vice president at Benton and Bowles. Emphysema killed him in 1992, and by then the public had largely forgotten he existed. Television created an entirely new species of child star, one who entered your living room every week for years and then simply dropped off the face of the earth. Bobby Driscoll was Disney's golden boy, one of the first 2 actors Walt Disney placed under personal contract. Song of the South, Treasure Island, and The Voice of Peter Pan all belonged to him, along with a Juvenile Academy Award at 13. And then Disney cancelled his contract just weeks after Peter Pan hit theaters, reportedly because severe teenage acne required too much makeup to cover on camera. One account put it plainly: Bobby was a victim of Walt Disney, who dismissed him brutally when he turned into an awkward teenager with pimples. It broke Bobby's heart. After transferring from Hollywood professional school to a regular public high school, the bullying started immediately. Driscoll later described it this way: "The other kids didn't accept me. I fought back, became belligerent and cocky, and was afraid all the time. Heroin entered his life at 17, and what followed was a long collapse." His court statement in 1961 carries the full weight of it. "I had everything. I was earning more than $50,000 a year, working steadily with good parts. Then I started putting all my spare time in my arm." On March 30th, 1968, 2 boys playing inside an abandoned tenement on East 10th Street in Manhattan found his body on a cot. No identification, nothing to say who he was. The city buried him as John Doe in a pauper's grave on Hart Island. His family didn't learn of his death until late 1969, when his mother contacted Disney looking for him, and a fingerprint match confirmed what had happened. The public found out in 1971. Near the end, Driscoll spoke a line that could serve as an epitaph for half the people in this video. "I have found that memories are not very useful. I was carried on a silver platter and then dumped into the garbage." The television era produced case after case with the same trajectory. Rusty Hamer appeared as Danny Thomas's son for 11 seasons and 343 episodes on Make Room for Daddy, and when the show wrapped, he possessed no transferable skills of any kind. A move to a small town in Louisiana followed, where he worked on an oil rig and later as a short-order cook. His brother told the Associated Press afterward, "He hasn't really been happy since his early 20s. On January 18, 1990, Rusty Hamer died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound at 42. Jay North's story carries a different kind of darkness. Chosen from 500 boys to play Dennis the Menace, he endured physical abuse from his aunt and on-set guardian throughout production. North described it to reporters years later, saying, "If it took me more than 1 or 2 takes, I would be threatened and then whacked. She was careful never to hit me in front of anyone else, and in places on my body where it wouldn't show." After the show ended, North joined the Navy, eventually settled in rural Florida, and spent roughly 20 years working as a corrections officer. Colorectal cancer took him in April 2025 at 73. Danny Bonaduce from the Partridge Family found himself homeless and living in his car after his show ended, and he later described the surreal humiliation of it on camera, saying, "I'd be taking pictures with people and signing autographs, and then when I was done, I would sneak back into my car. It was totally embarrassing to be famous and homeless." Lauren Chapin played Kathy Kitten Anderson on Father Knows Best for 6 seasons, and the gap between her screen life and her real one nearly destroyed her. Prostitution and heroin addiction consumed years of her life after the show, and she later put the confusion into words on live television. "It was very difficult to understand how Kathy Anderson could be loved and protected, and Lauren Chapin lived a whole different kind of life." Some of these stories never got a second act. Anissa Jones played Buffy on Family Affair from 1966 to 1971, and the role followed her everywhere. She lost the part of Regan in The Exorcist because the director believed reruns would make audiences still see her as Buffy. When her 18th birthday arrived in March 1976, she collected her trust fund, and her brother Paul later told reporters she burned through nearly $200,000 in 4 or 5 months. 5 months after turning 18, on August 28, 1976, Anissa Jones was found dead with cocaine, PCP, quaaludes, and Seconal in her system, 18 years old. Judith Barcy was 10. Her voice brought Ducky to life in The Land Before Time and Anne-Marie and All Dogs Go to Heaven, both released after her murder. By 4th grade, she earned around $100,000 a year. Her father, Joseph Barcy, an alcoholic, routinely threatened to kill the entire family, and before one film shoot, he pressed a knife to her throat and told her, "If you do not return after finished shooting, I'll cut your throat." A psychologist reported the abuse. The case was closed after her mother promised to leave. What her mother actually told a neighbor was, "I can't, because he'll come for us and kill us." On July 25, 1988, Joseph Barcy shot Judith and her mother while they slept. 2 days later, he set the house on fire and turned the gun on himself. Heather O'Rourke, the little girl who delivered the line "They're here" in Poltergeist, died on February 1, 1988 at 12 years old from a congenital intestinal defect that doctors had misdiagnosed for months. Her mother's words were direct. The X-rays taken, if properly read, would have disclosed that this was the kind of condition that should have been treated surgically. The question underneath all of these stories is whether the pattern can be broken, and the only major peer-reviewed study on professional child actors gives us a partial answer. Rapport and Malayan surveyed 74 former famous child performers in 1998 and found that when a parent doubled as the child's manager, that child was far more likely to view the parent as controlling and uncaring in adulthood. Parental attachment turned out to be the deciding factor. Good attachment meant no connection between a childhood career and adult problems. Poor attachment produced a strong one. A 2011 literature review by Anderson confirmed one additional finding, that rates of drug and alcohol abuse among former child actors ran significantly higher than in the general population. That remains the only statistically verified claim on the subject, but the individual stories fill in what the data can't. The Coogan Law was supposed to address the financial side, and for 60 years, it mostly failed. A California Senate analysis in 1999 found that over 95% of minors' entertainment earnings remained unprotected under the original law. Real reform didn't arrive until January 1, 2000, when Senator John Burton's legislation mandated that 15% of gross earnings be deposited into a block trust account. Even with that fix, the remaining 85% still sits under parental control with minimal oversight. Paul Peterson, himself a former child star on The Donna Reed Show, founded the advocacy organization A Minor Consideration in 1991 after Rusty Hamer's suicide drove him to action. His assessment of the problem is the most concise one ever offered. Fame is a dangerous drug and should be kept out of the reach of children. Baby Peggy, looking back across a full century of life, captured the core truth in showbiz kids when she told the cameras, "I didn't know what a regular kid was because I didn't have any friends. I didn't know there was another world out there for children, and the life of a child was not my life." None of these were cautionary tales while they were happening. They were just kids going to work. The cautionary part only revealed itself afterward. When the cameras stopped, the money vanished, and nobody was watching anymore. If this video changed the way you think about what we ask of children in entertainment, consider sharing it. All sources are linked in the description below. Thanks for watching.